us tonight.
Okay, well, Father Simon and the righteous rabble, I am asking for forgiveness from you quite literally, because I don't know if this is a first on Confessions, but Simon and Joe were actually both present at the event that I'm asking forgiveness for.
Ooh.
So, I am a stand-up comedian who came to comedy in 2010, a bit later in life at the age of 33. I've always been a late developer. I learnt to swim at 37, to drive at 39, and next year I thought I'd join the Brownies. See how that goes. In 2011, I won the BBC New Comedy Award, and I'd only been gigging for just over a year, so it was a bit of a shock, and suddenly the next 12 months were filled with exciting new things. I was interviewed by Terry Wogan. I was on Steve Wright in the afternoon, and in September 2012, I was asked to perform an 8-minute comedy set at Radio 2's Live in Hyde Park, a festival in a day.
I remember.
Oh, I'm not surprised you remember. You see, the 2012 BBC New Comedy Award was being launched, and so the powers that be at the BBC thought it'd be fun for me to come and do a set at Live in Hyde Park, help them to launch it, because I'd won the year previously. And when I tell this tale, I'd really appreciate it if you can remember that I have won a comedy award. Now, it was a real honour to be asked. Of course, Hyde Park has been the home of some great spectacles. After all, Rolling Stones, Live 8, the Tweenies. And on this day, I was incredibly nervous. So a car picked me up from home and I got taken to the gates of Hyde Park. Then a golf buggy took me to the backstage area and people kept running up to look to see who was in there. And I've never disappointed so many people in one afternoon. I felt like Tim Henman. Wrong crowd. When I arrived, I was greeted by the producer of the show, who informed me that the presenters were Simon Mayo and Joe Wiley, and that I would be going on stage sometime in the afternoon. Now, the lineup for the day included Mick Hucknall, Emily Sandé, Rebecca Ferguson, Paloma Faith, Status Quo, and the two headliners, Jessie J and Tom Jones. The producer then told me, and I really wish he hadn't, that there was an audience of 35,000 people at the show. That is 202s. That is the population of Billericay. And it was being broadcast live on Radio 2 and streamed live on the BBC website as well. Now, I was used to gigging in rooms above pubs with 4 men and a bewildered dog, so it was a bit much. I was supposed to be going on stage at some time in the afternoon to do 8 minutes of stand-up comedy to 35,000 people who were there for pop music. Not ideal. But I still thought at this stage that it might be fun. Oh, how wrong I was. To cut a long story short, I kept getting bumped up the lineup, and I eventually ended up having to go on stage after Jessie J and before Tom Jones. Jessie J and her bandmates came off stage high-fiving each other, and Jeremy Vine, who was stood next to me in the wings, put a hand on my shoulder and said, "Crikey, good luck." Then Simon Mayo went out onto stage and he said to the crowd, "Are you excited about Tom Jones?" And they went wild. And then he said, "But first," and introduced me to the stage. I came out, I said, "Hello, Hyde Park," and they cheered. And that is a moment I will never forget, as it went rapidly downhill when they realised I was not Tom Jones and that I was not in Tom Jones's band. I don't know if you've ever stood between 35,000 Tom Jones fans and their hero, but they don't like it. A wave of disappointment and frustration from 35,000 people is tangible. You can taste it. And when they realised I was going to be there for a little while, they took the opportunity to go to the loo or get drinks from the bar and generally ignore me until I went away. I started to do my set, and just to be really helpful, members of Tom Jones's band started tuning up behind me. I ploughed through the jokes on autopilot while in my head I tried to think of nice thoughts and my happy place, which was anywhere but there. It's safe to say, ladies and gentlemen, I bombed. I knew it had gone really badly because when I got back to my dressing room afterwards, I had a text message from my brother who'd been watching the live stream that simply said, "Oh, well, at least your dress was nicer than Jessie J's." Which is still to this day the nicest thing he's ever said to me. Now, I don't ask forgiveness from Radio 2, as I think they should have realised maybe that sending an unknown comedian out before Tom Jones was sending a lamb to the slaughter. It would have been a difficult job if Michael McIntyre had to go out there at that point, let alone some woman they'd never heard of. I don't ask forgiveness from the audience because it was delaying their gratification, sure, but at least it gave them a chance to top up their drinks or go to the loo before Tom came on. And boy, did they take advantage of that opportunity in their droves. But I do ask forgiveness from one Simon Mayo. I was supposed to be on stage for 8 minutes, but But after 5 minutes, the chance of "we want Tom" had become too much to bear. And I cut my losses, said my goodbyes, and bailed. This meant that Simon, who'd probably been enjoying a nice cup of tea and a break, had to abandon what he was doing to race back to the stage to make sure the live broadcast continued. And for that, Simon, I truly seek your forgiveness.
Oh, wow. OK, well, Angela Barnes. No one's asked for my forgiveness, but you have it, of course. I do remember that. I do remember that moment. And maybe I'm part of the problem, having said... But first...
But I do remember this. Do you not? I was going, what? Who is she?
Yeah.
What's she doing this? Oh.
Yeah, it was a terrible mistake. And because I was so new, it never occurred to me to say, no, I'm not going to do that. So I did it.
I know, that's what you do. You do as you're asked, don't you? Do as you're told.
But it did make up the 10 minutes of my first Edinburgh show, the last 10 minutes. So,
there you go.
So, I got that out.
All right, well, we'll ask the audience in just a moment. But, Joe, are you feeling...
how could you ever, I feel like we should ask your forgiveness, to be honest with you. I do remember, and, I've completely forgiven.
Bobby Pryor.
Yeah, it's easy. It's absolutely gorgeous of you to go and get on that stage. I mean, wow, fabulous for just getting on and doing it and actually making sense and going, actually, I'm going to cut this short. I can do that, because that's a good call too. I think you just made good calls all the way around. You are forgiven.
Let's get a snap poll from our highly individually selected, very good-looking audience. If you forgive Angela, say yay, and if you don't, then boo, and do it at the same time now.
Yay! Oh, there's the cheer you were after. There's the cheer.
Where were you in September 2012?
Angela Barnes, give her a bigger round of applause.